you're new here, hi, my name is Rachel. And if you're wondering what my shirt is, yes, it is Sailor Moon. It is Sailor Moon. So the past couple of weeks, I have been sort of on a hiatus. I haven't really been uploading the past 2 or 3 weeks and my reason for that is that I was actually out of town as of recent. I was doing a summer program that took up quite literally every minute of every day, and I was unable to film there. But I'm back, and today, and also, I have these new nails. They are like a crimson shade of red. Not really crimson, maybe not as bright as crimson, but it's like a blood red color. And these are actually my natural nails. I didn't get acrylics. We'll see how long I can keep these. I'll probably have to go back to my natural nails when school starts. Today, I've been wanting to do this video for a while, but every time I record it, I don't like how it turns out. So hopefully today is different, or it's either I don't like how it turns out, like how it sounds, or I end up making the video too short or too long, and it's not to my preference. But today is going to be a reading video. If you couldn't tell already, I love reading, and I also love buying books. I want to say every time I'm asked to make a wish list, I just put books on there, not only because it's easy for people to get, for me, whether it's be for Christmas or birthdays, but genuinely, I'm trying to grow a collection. As you can see, I have a cart back here with every book that I own. These right here are from the library, as well as the one I will be reading today. Today I'm gonna be reading Vonnegut's The Sirens of Titan. This is from my local library. I actually don't own this book. Oh, I also have more books, ebooks, on my iPad that I also occasionally read from, and I also listen to audiobooks as well. It's everywhere. And I'm not trying to sound pretentious in any way, shape, or form. I just genuinely love. I just think it's very I don't want to say it kind of is old-fashioned, though, if I'm being honest. It's kind of grounding to have so many books surrounding me when most of everything that I know of is getting taken over by AI and technology. So I'm actually going to be starting where I last left off. So I'm not starting from the beginning. So treat this sort of as more for relaxation purposes than a whispered audiobook. But I'll give you a sort of idea of what's been happening. The Sirens of Titan is an outrageous romp through space, time, and morality. The richest, most braved man on Earth, Malachi Constant, is offered a chance to take a space journey to distant worlds with a beautiful woman at his side. Of course, there's a catch to the invitation and a prophetic vision about the purpose of human life that only Vonnegut has the courage to tell. I'm going to preface by saying, when I start reading, Malachi Constant is not going to be addressed as that name. His name, at least from where I'm starting the reading from, is actually called Unk. you will say, said Redwine, word for word. I have thought long and hard about the words you are going to say, and I am convinced they cannot be improved upon. But I can't think of any words except hello, thank you, said Unc. What do you want me to say? What do you say, said Redwine. Those good people out there have been rehearsing this moment for a long time. They would ask you 2 questions, and you will answer them to the best of your ability. He led Unc through the airlock to the outside. The fire engine's fountain has been turned off. The shouting and dancing has stopped. Redwine's congregation now formed a semicircle around Unc and Redwine. The members of the congregation had their lips pressed tightly together and their lungs filled. Redwine gave a saintly signal. The congregation spoke as one. Who are you? They said. I don't know my real name, said Unc. They call me Unc. What happened to you? Said the congregation. Unc shook his head vaguely. He could think of no apt condensation of adventures for the obviously ritual mood. Something great was plainly expected of him. He was not up to greatness. He exhaled noisily, letting the congregation know that he was sorry to fill them with his colorlessness. I was a victim of a series of accidents, he said. He shrugged. As are we all, he said. The cheering and dancing began again. Unc was hustled aboard the fire engine and driven on it to the door of the church. Redwine pointed amiably to an unfurled wooden scroll over the door. Incised in the scroll and gilded were these words: I was a victim of a series of accidents, as are we all. Unc was driven on the fire engine straight from the church to Newport, Rhode Island, where materialization was due to take place, according to a plan that had been set up years before. Other fire apparatus on Cape Cod was shifted so as to protect West Barnstable, which would be without its bumper for a little while. Word of the Space Wanderers coming spread over the earth like wildfire, and every village, town, and city through which the fire engine passed, Unc was pelted with flowers. Unc sat high on the fire engine on a 2x6 fir timber laid across the cockpit amidships. In the cockpit itself was the Reverend C. Horner Redwine. Reverend had controlled the fire engine's bell, which he rang assiduously. Attached to the clapper of the bell was a malachite made of high-impact plastic. The doll was of a special sort that could be bought only in Newport. Their shutters closed until 10 minutes after the last trace of Rumford and Kazakh had disappeared. Bea turned to her son Chrono, who was opening a fresh case of Malachis. How long before the whistle? She said. The whistle was a great steam whistle inside the estate. It was blown 5 minutes in advance of materializations. Materializations themselves were announced by a firing of a 3-inch cannon. Dematerializations were announced by the release of 1,000 toy balloons. 8 minutes, said Chrono, looking at his watch. He was 11 Earthling years old now. He was dark and smoldering. He was an expert short-changer and was clever with cards. He was foul-matched and carried a switch knife with a 6-inch blade. Chrono would not socialize well with other children, and his reputation for dealing with life courageously and directly was so bad that only a few very foolish and very pretty girls were attracted to him. Chrono was classified by the Newport Police Department and by the Rhode Island State Police as the juvenile delinquent. He knew at least 50 law enforcement officers by their first names and was a veteran of 14 lie detector tests. All that prevented Chrono's being placed in an institution was the finest legal staff on earth, the legal staff of the Church of God, the utterly indifferent, under the direction of Rumford. The staff defended Chrono against all charges. The commonest charges brought against Chrono were larceny by sleight of hand, carrying concealed weapons, possessing unregistered pistols, discharging firearms within the city limits, selling obscene prints and articles, and being a wayward child. The authorities complained bitterly that the boy's big trouble was his mother. His mother left him just the way he was. Only 8 more minutes to get your Malachi, folks, said Bea. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Bea's upper front teeth were gold, and her skin, like the skin of her son, was the color of golden oak. Bea had lost her upper front teeth with the spaceship in which she and Chrono had ridden from Mars grassland in the Gumbo region of the Amazon rainforest. She and Chrono had been the only survivors of the crash and had wandered through the jungles for a year. The color of Bea and Chrono's skin was permanent since it stemmed from a modification of their livers. The livers had been modified by a 3-month diet consisting of water and the roots of the salpa or Amazonian blue poplar. The diet had been a part of Bea's and Chrono's initiation into the Gumbo tribe. During the initiation, mother and son had been stalked at the end of tethers in the middle of the village, with Chrono representing the sun and Bea representing the moon, as the sun and moon were understood by the Gumbo people. As a result of their experiences, Bea and Chrono were closer than most mother and sons. They had been rescued at last by a helicopter. Winston Niles Rumford had sent the helicopter to just the right place at just the right time. Winston Niles Rumford had given Bea and Chrono the lucrative Malachi concession outside the Alice in Wonderland door. He had also paid Bea's dental bill and had suggested that her false front teeth be gold. The man who had the booth next to Bea's was Harry Brackman. He had been Unk's platoon sergeant back on Mars. Brackman was portly and balding now. He had a cork leg and a stainless steel right hand. He had lost the one leg and had at the Battle of Baccarat, and he was the only survivor of the battle, and if he hadn't been so horribly wounded, he would certainly have been lynched along with the other survivors of his platoon. Brackman sold plastic models of the fountain and said that, well, if the models were foot high, the models had spring-driven pumps in the bases. The pumps pumped water from the big bowl at the bottom to the tiny bowls at the top, when the tiny bowls spilled into the slightly larger bowls below, and Brackman had 3 of them going at once on the counter before him, just like the one inside, folks, he said, and you can take one of these home with you. Put it in the picture window so all your neighbors will know you've been to Newport. Put it in the middle of the kitchen table for the kids' parties and fill it with pink lemonade. How much? Said a Rube. $17, said Brackman. Wow, said the Rube. It's a sacred shrine, cousin, said Brackman, looking at the Rube levelly. Isn't a toy. He reached under the counter, brought out a model of a Martian spaceship. You want a toy? Here's the toy, 49 cents. I only make 2 cents on it. The Rube made a show of being a judicious shopper. He compared the toy with the real article it was supposed to represent. The real article was a Martian spaceship on top of a column 98 feet tall. The column and spaceship were inside the walls of the Rumford estate, in the corner of the estate where the tennis courts had once been. Rumford had yet to explain the purpose of the spaceship, whose supporting column had been built with the pennies of school children from all over the world. Also, I'm going to be shifting now, starting now, like in and out of inaudible whispering, just to add a bit of more like dynamicism into my whispering. There was repeatedly the longest submittal as an object of tremendous power. Respect for it led them to initiate rather than eat its owners. Bregman left affectionately. Yes, there's a Martian bird you said won't even get off his case of Malagas for a look at the space wanderer. God was not alone with that bit, but the space wanderer was brought an impotent custom of bolts conscious. They went from ceremonies to take the 12 tunnels, the booth, until Rumford and his dog had come and gone. It wasn't that the considerate were content for its religion. Most of them thought the new religion was pretty good. What they were tremendous and what they stated their shuttered booths in their day as Martian veterans had already done more than enough to put the Church of God and utterly different on its feet. Traumatized the fact of their having been all used up, and Rumford encouraged them in this pose, strode both of them fondly as his soldiers outside the door. But they remembered one side as a great one they suffered, that we might be more lively, more sensitive, and more free. The temptation of the Martian concessionaires to take a peek at the space wonder was great. There were large speakers on the walls of the Rumford estate, and every word spoken from Rumford inside blatted in the ears of anyone within a quarter mile. The words spoken again and again of the glorious moment of truth that would come when the space wanderer came. It was a big moment. True believers titillated themselves about the big moment when true believers were going to find their beliefs clarified and vivified by a factor of 10. And the moment had arrived at the fire engine that had carried the space wanderer down with the church. The space wanderer at Cape Cod was clinging and shrieking inside the booths. Trolls in the twilight of the booths refused to speak. The cannon roared within the walls. Rumford and his dog then had materialized. The space wanderer passing in through the Alice in Wonderland door. Probably some broken down actor yet from New York, said Bregman. This got no response from anyone, not even from Chrono, who fancied himself the chief cynic of the booths. Bregman didn't take his own suggestion seriously that the first space wanderer was a fraud. The concessionaires knew all too well that Rumford's penchant for realism. He used nothing but real people and real house. Let it be emphasized here that passionately felt was a great spectacle significant to them. Declares himself God or something a whole lot like God. It was again Dr. Maurice Ristol and his band collected Gumbug and 3 billion dupes says Winston Hauser and there is still a Pharisee, Tartuffe, and Cagliostro had taken pains to declare that he's not God Almighty and he is not a closer to God Almighty, that he's received no plain instructions from God Almighty. To these words of the Master of Newport we can say amen, and we may add that Rumford is so far from being a relative agent of God Almighty he has to make all communication with God Almighty himself impossible so long as Rumford is around. Dr. Ridley took up the merciful truth of this little boost to like Pearson and get their data. Tips were straight trashy religious article bombs, and now with Rumford and the space wanderer about to meet the condition from very hard not to be interested. Sir Bregman good hand went up to the side that could not have hit studying the area over his antenna, and the antenna which he had done all important thing made the signal bring the space wanderer here blooded from Rumford's voice. From the cab around so maybe we should go, said Bregman to be. He was standing with them. Back to the closed shutters. Eyes were shut. Astonished, looked at the cold. She shivered at the materialization took place. Gordon was rubbing his back. Slowly with the ball of his thumb, watched go. He lowered pistol the cold metal with the go with the glide away. The man who so totally mechanical bird swung his swears overhead listlessly. A farm wife had stabbed with the pitchfork. The battle docking technique landed him for dead at the conjunction of the animation and rehabilitation words had, with the help of fingerprints, identified the Birdman as Bernard K. Winslow, an itinerant chicken sexer who had appeared from the alcohol ward of the London hospital. Thanks very much for the information. So I took the committee at the dawn of that lost feeling anywhere. Mr. Bergman identified with the committee as Private Francis J. Thompson, who had disappeared the night while making a lonely guard post around the water pole in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You say the committee had been baffled by me. She had no fingerprints on record. The committee believed her. Florence White, a plain and friendless girl who had disappeared from the steam laundry in Coeys, New York, or Darlene Simpsons, a plain and friendless girl who had been seen accepting a ride with this northeastern in Brownsville, Texas. Down the line of booths from Bregman and Chrono and B were Martian nuns who had been identified as Myron S. Watson, an alcoholic. Disappeared from those posts as soon as a room attendant at Newark Airport, as Charlene assistant dietitian of the cafeteria of Stivers High School in Dayton, Ohio, or as Krishna Garo, a typesetter. Still wanted technically on charges of bigamy, pondering and on supporting Calcutta, India, as Kurt Schneider, also an alcoholic manager of a failing traveling agency in Bremen, Germany. The mighty Rumford said, "Be pardon me," said Bregman. He snatched out of our lives, said B. Put us to sleep and get out of our minds the way you clean out the seats of a jack-o'-lantern. He waters like robots trained us, aimed us, burned us out in a good cause. He shrugged. Could we have done any better if he'd left mirror for night materializations, the superstructures of the system on in a fresh color electric lamps. The wonder was only the 31st president to join Rumford on the elevated system. An assistant had been dispatched to Malachi both outside to bring in the 3739. Third person assured the eminence of Rumford did not look well. His color was bad, and though he smiled, his teeth seemed to be gnashing behind the smile. His complacently had become a caricature of Mary. The fact that all was not done well by any means, but on and on the famous smile and the magnified, certainly snobbish crowd pleaser out his big dog Kazakh by a choke chain. This train was destroyed so as to nip ringly into the dog's throat. The warning was necessary, and the dog plainly did not like the space wanderer. Faltered for an instant, reminding the crowd of what a load Rumford carried for them, worrying the crowd that he might not be able to carry it forever. Rumford carried in his bombing microphone a transmitter the size of a penny. Did not want to be carrying the crowd. He simply smothered the penny in his fist. The penny was smothered in his first fist now, and he was addressing bits of irony to the space wanderer that would have bewildered the crowd, and the crowd had been able to hear them. This is certainly your day, isn't it? And Rumford purposed love feast from the instant you arrived. The crowd simply adores you, do adore cross. The day had reduced the owner to a childish condition, a condition wherein irony and even sarcasm were lost. But captive of many things in a troubled time, he was now captive of a crowd that thought he was a marvel. They've certainly been wonderful, and he said, they've been good. Oh, they're a great bunch, said, no mistake about that, but I got my brains for the right word to describe them, and you've brought it to me from outer space, grand as what they are. Or his mind was playing elsewhere. He wasn't much interested in the space wanderer as a person, hardly even looked at him. Neither did he seem very excited about the approach of the wife and child. Where they said Rumford to an insistent below. Let's go out with it. Let's get it over with. Spindle was finding his adventures so satisfying and stimulating, so splendidly staged that he was shy about asking questions. Asking questions that might make him seem ungrateful. He realized that he had terrific ceremonial responsibility, and that the best thing to do was keep his mouth shut, and to speak only when spoken to make answer to all questions and short and heartless. The space wanderer's mind did not teem with questions. The fundamental structure of ceremonial question situation was obvious, was a clean and functional, and as a three-legged mook and stool, he suffered mightily, and now he was being rewarded mightily. The sudden change of just made a bang-up show. He smiled, understanding the crowd's delight. He smiled, understanding, pretending to be the crowd himself, sharing the crowd's delight. Rumford read the space wanderer's mind, though. They'd like it just as much as the other way around, the other way around. The big reward came first, and then the great suffering. It's the contrast they like. The order of events doesn't make any difference to them. It's the thrill of the fast reverse. Rumford opened his fist, exposed the microphone with his other hand. He beckoned pontifically. He was beckoning to be in Chrono, who had been hoisted into a tributary of gilded system of catwalks, ramps, ladders, pulpits, steps, and stages. This way, please. We haven't got all day, said Rumford Schoolmarshally. During the lull, the spawner left the first real tickle of plans for a good future on Earth. When so kind and enthusiastic and peaceful, not only a good life, but a perfect life would be lived. The space wanderer thought to give him a fine time, a new suit, and a glamorous station in life, and his mate and his son were to be restored to him in a matter of minutes. The king was a good friend, and the space wanderer began to tremble. He trembled, for he knew in his heart that this bad friend, Stoney Stevenson, was hidden somewhere on the grounds, awaiting a cue to appear. The space wanderer smiled, for he was so much in certain interest, and accompanied down the ramp, laughing at a little drunk, uncared, bloody bastard, Stoney would roll. God, looking at every flaming pub and bloody earth, but you hung up Mercury the whole time. So being Chrono reached Rumford and the space wanderer. Rumford walked away, and he separated himself from being Chrono. The space wanderer by a mirror's arm. The separateness might have understood. The gilded system enabled him to put a really respectable distance between himself and the three, and not only a distance, but a distance made torturous by Rococo, variously simple hazards. It was undeniably a great theater, notwithstanding Dr. Murray's nose carping comment opposite. The people who watch her friendly as Winston Rumford goes dancing over his golden jungle gym in Newport are the same idiots who find toys in toy stores, gaping more friendly at toy trains. The trains go jumpa in and out. Paper mache tunnels over toothpick trestles, over carpet cities into paper mache tunnels again, with the little trains that once snoused. Rumford into view again. Oh, memorabilia they will. Furthest up in front of the mansion, Rumford went to a stile that arched over the crest of a boxwood edge. On the other side of the stile was a catwalk that ran for 10 feet to the trunk of the copper beech. The trunk was 4 feet high, gilded rungs, large skirt, to the bottom bracket, the club side with late giant beans out somewhere up in the tree spoke. The voice came out from the tree, but from the gabriel horns on the walls. Conway, his eyes from the leafy tree top, turned his eyes to the nearest lounge